It looks like we have an update on the St. Louis couple who came out with guns when protesters, rioters, broke into their gated community and, according to these individuals, started threatening them. Let me give you the quick context because if you've been following my channel, you've seen most of the context already, but to be fair, some people might not know. Black Lives Matter protesters marching down the street entered this gated community. They destroyed the gate, so now they're rioters. And this man said that he was on his patio eating dinner, and he announced this is private property. They started yelling things back at him that they were going to attack him or whatever. So he grabbed his rifle. His wife grabbed her gun, and he came out, and we got many of these photos. Now here's the big update. It appears they have bent the knee. They have bent the knee to the protesters, begging them, please don't come back. You know what, man? A lot of people are heralding these people for coming out with their weapons. Nah, look, I get it, okay? They broke into private property and people are defending them. I'm not convinced it was the right thing to do to come out with these weapons, especially when this guy clearly doesn't know how to handle it. He's got, you know, that barrel pointed, you know what I mean? You got to aim the muzzle down. So I'm not convinced it was the right thing to do to come out with the weapons the way they did, point them at people, but they're being defended because castle doctrine. You break onto private property. We've got, you know, these mass shootings in Louisville and the shootings in Chaz. I can understand why they were scared. It doesn't mean it was the best thing to do. In fact, many people have actually criticized them saying the house has a balcony, has a roof. Yes, I know it's funny, but they could have literally taken a defensive position instead of coming out and confronting people and yelling at them. The point is, while it may not have been the best thing to do, people understand why they did do it. But now in a statement they have released, they are praising the protesters. It's about time, they say, for these protests. Can you believe it? Can you believe it? Now, of course, they're still critical. They still defend their right to defend their property, but they're defending the protests. At what point do you say things have gotten out of hand? The escalation needs to stop. To be fair, I understand the message and I agree with accountability, but now with the weirdo far left stuff, not the weirdo Marxism, white fragility, whatever this weird nonsense is. No, none of that. I respect the First Amendment protests, but I'm not going to agree with these people that are going around and engaging in this behavior at this point. Early on, we can say, look, you want to take a knee during a sporting event, national anthem? Hey, man, do it to it. Right on. Here, it's America. You can protest. I'm down with that. You want to march around and break onto someone's property? No. We're not going to support that. So why would they? According to this is a journalist. His name is Rob Edwards for KSDK News. He says, St. Louis lawyers support Black Lives Matter, wish to set the record straight regarding Portland Place protest. I love this thing's loaded with typos, so we can only assume it's true coming from this journalist. They say St. Louis lawyers, Mark McCloskey and Patricia McCloskey, wish to set the record straight about the protest, on one hand, and the actions of a few individuals who chose to exploit the otherwise peaceful protest to place Mr. and Mrs. McCloskey in fear of imminent harm. This is how they try to have their cake and eat it too. I'm sorry, McCloskeys. You either defend your property and you stand up for your rights, or you just back down. But you can't have your cake and eat it too. This is you bending the knee. Quote, both Mr. and Mrs. McCloskey are lawyers whose professional careers have punctuated by their long-standing commitment to protecting the civil rights of clients victimized at the hands of law enforcement. This commitment of time and resources to the cause continues today in the Isaiah Foreman case. The peaceful protesters were not the subject of scorn or disdain by the McCloskeys. To the contrary, they were expecting and supportive of the message of the protesters. The actions of violence, destruction of property, and acts of threatening aggression by a few individuals commingling with the peaceful protesters gave rise to trepidation and fear of imminent grave. And then they go on to make sure they wrap it up with a nice little bow. But I'm going to pause right here because I got to give a quick shout out to today's sponsor, Virtual Shield. Head over to hidewithtim.com and you can get a VPN service, a virtual private network service from Virtual Shield for just $2.50 per month. A VPN, for those that don't know, is a basic layer of security to protect you from people who might want to spy on your data, see what you're doing. It's a simple layer of protection. It's the easiest way to explain it, but it can protect you from hackers and some kind of, just general spying. I usually explain it to people like this. We don't always expect someone to break into our house, but we still lock our doors and windows anyway. So a basic layer of security on the internet makes a lot of sense, especially considering a lot of us are doing work remotely right now. If you want to prevent someone from snooping on you and trying to steal your data, Virtual Shield can be that service. So again, go to hidewithtim.com, and for $2.50 a month, they got a VPN service. These guys are great. They're my first sponsor. They've always been there for me, so I really appreciate it. But let's get back to the story. Their actions were born solely of fear and apprehension, the genesis of which was not race-related. In fact, the agitators responsible for the trepidation were white. Talk about dropping to your knees and begging, "We'll do whatever you say." It's pathetic. Look, I don't think they should have gone out onto the front of their property with their weapons. I can understand why they did, though. And I understand why people will defend them. So I'm not saying that you can't defend them from doing so. I'm saying the strategy was lacking with these people. But let's be honest. They weren't yelling at just a handful of white people who were agitating. It was the entire group that broke onto their property, damaged their fence, and they came out with guns. They're saying, but it was the people who were white. Oh, shut up. It's not about race, but it's about race. Shut up, dude. The protesters are not judged based on the color of their skin. They're based on the content of their character, and their character was damaging property. That's it. So if you want to come out and defend yourself, fine, I get it. I'd recommend taking some classes, and, I'm not going to pretend like I know, what the right thing to do is. I'm only a recent gun owner. But whatever this is, if you're going to defend yourself, and you're not, if you're not trained and you don't exactly know how to handle a weapon, we can forgive that because you're scared. But to try and come out and say, we support the message, it wasn't about race, but the people who did it were white. Okay, dude, I get it. You dropped to your knees. You're scared. They'll come back. Oh, they will. And now you're going viral and you'll never have a client again. Keep living on your knees. See how that plays out for you. Look. The last thing I or anyone should want is an escalation of any street level protest, violence, and that's why these protesters I'm not gonna defend. Not in the least bit. They should not have done this. They've graduated to rioters, and many of them extremists, and they need to stop. 100% they need to stop. Everybody needs to chill. We need law and order to return. Police need to get a handle on things, and everyone needs to calm down. But here's what we get. This is just the crazy chaos, because I got another story for you. Check this out. He just floored it. Detroit police SUV plows through group of protesters, flings people who climbed onto hood. A largely peaceful protest. That's what they keep saying. Shut up. It's not peaceful. When you surround a police car banging on it and then jump on the hood, that is not peaceful. Peaceful is you block a road and you sit down and they can't move and they gotta get out of their car and they gotta make arrests or whatever. That's peaceful. It is not peaceful when you surround vehicles screaming and banging on things and jumping on the hood. Now this video is going around where they're screaming like, oh no, the cops ran people over. Oh, please, dude, the cop was going like 5 miles an hour and people rolled off the hood. They're trying to make it seem way worse than it really is. Let me just make it clear. The police officer drove rather slowly through this group like we normally see. Some people jumped on the hood. They jumped on the hood. And when the cops started rolling forward, they rolled off the hood. They're all fine. Minor, I don't even think anybody got injured. Okay, it's not a horrifying moment. YouTube's going to get really mad that we're talking about it because of the way left is framing it. Here's what someone said. Detroit Police Department just ran straight through a bunch of our protesters. Myself and 10 to 12 others were struck by this reckless driver who somehow has a badge. This is the propaganda game. Let me tell you what really happened, because you can watch the video yourself. The cop was driving through and the protesters ran up, jumped on the hood, and then said, oh no, he plowed right through us. No, he didn't. It's almost like one of those insurance scams. You ever see these videos out of Russia? They all have dash cams on their cars because things like this happen so often. And then someone will run up to the car and then just dive onto the hood and then go, whoa, and then fall on the ground and then claim they got hit. And it's like, we have you on camera. You jumped on the car and then they run off. I've seen, apparently there have been stories of people who do that getting arrested. The protesters are doing their version of an insurance fraud scheme. Run up to the cops, claim the cop plowed into you because you jumped on the hood, and now they say this. The extent of injuries remains unclear, yet none. No, what is this? Kettner wrote multiple people injured. No, they weren't. This is so ridiculous, man. The Detroit Police Department did not return messages left by the Washington Post, but spokeswoman Sergeant Nicole Kirkwood told the Detroit Free Press that while she was aware of the incident, she was awaiting further details before giving an official statement. In a statement to Detroit News, the police department said the driver was attempting to leave the scene after a rear back window had been busted out. The officer tried to escape. And there wasn't a group of people standing in the street. The cop didn't just go, meow. The cop was driving very slowly. They ran up and started screaming, and the cop stopped. And then the cop jerked forward a couple times, and people got out of the way. That's it. I don't believe there are any injuries at all. Maybe someone got a sprain. You go to the doctor and say, it hurts. I don't know, a sprain, I guess, because I can't see anything wrong with you. And that's likely what happened. But we're dealing with propaganda, information warfares, and things like that. I'm not surprised to see this couple in St. Louis bending the knee and saying, we support the protesters. You know, it was not having anything to do with race. The people were white, though. Spare me, dude. I'm not interested in listening to this fake news. I think we can understand what's going on. I think it's fine to say, I do not support these people and what they've done. The greater message is different, but these people, you know, broke onto our property, destroyed our fence. They're coming for the neighborhoods, okay? The protests will come. They want to get you angry. They want you to strike back, and they will use it as propaganda. And that's happening in both of these stories. The cop who was threatened, who tried to drive away, they're now screaming like he rammed him. He didn't. The guy at his house in St. Louis, this is another reason why I think it was bad for them to come out with their weapons. Again, you can defend them. They were scared. I understand that. But think about how this is being weaponized now. They're showing photos and videos of the woman and the man with weapons, and this is what you get. So I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up in a few minutes, and I will see you all shortly.